Stuart Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, another Smith, you're very fortunate. This government has set itself a challenge, Mr. Speaker, and it's a great challenge, a wordsmith, that's right, to double primary industry exports by 2025. But how are we going to do that, Mr. Speaker? Well, the regions are doing the heavy lifting in the growing exports in this country, and I happen to represent one of the regions that has one of the fastest growing and one of the most export-orientated regions in the country. I'm coming to that. On top of having a strong agricultural sector, it represents 80% of both the aquaculture and wine industries, as well as having a strong forestry, manufacturing and tourism sectors. All of those sectors and those industries coming from Kaikoura really have a great international reputation and are really helping New Zealand to build its place in the world. To meet our export target, Mr. Speaker, we need to grow value over volume in a sustainable way. Possibilities for regional development have often been wasted when those initiatives have been driven by councils, Mr. Speaker. Councils, unfortunately, aren't natural business thinkers. When they do their budget, for example, Mr. Speaker, they fill out the expenditure side of the budget and then simply make the income fit it, whereas businesses have to go completely the other way around. Cluster groups, however, although councils, I should say, have a valuable role to play in growing business and business initiatives by providing the infrastructure and supporting business initiatives. Cluster groups provide one of the great initiatives and possibilities to grow businesses in the regional sectors. And one in point is a Marlborough Food and Beverage Cluster, or Marlborough Food and Beverage Innovation Cluster, MFBI. It's quite a mouthful. This was formed a little over a year ago under the umbrella of the Marlborough Research Centre Trust, the Reddit Institute, Massey University and the ANZ Bank. Together these entities provide the necessary capabilities, skills to assist companies to grow and innovate and reach further up the value chain. Members gain access to investment funds, education opportunities and research resources. This enhances their potentials to grow. MFBI, whilst a Marlborough cluster, is open to New Zealand companies, as it has a vision to support New Zealand Inc. as well as regional development. And to that end, they have companies who are participating from Christchurch, Nelson and Wellington. An example of the success of the cluster model is the Renaissance Brewery, which has recently undertaken a capital raising exercise through the crowdsourcing, which is the first New Zealand company to successfully do so. Crowdfunding is an exciting new way for small companies to grow and to gain access to capital markets through the Financial Markets Conduct Act, which allows capital raising for small companies without the need for the same level of detailed disclosure and expense that the more traditional avenues will require. Renaissance Brewery successfully raised $700,000 through the crowdfunding platform called Snowball Effect. But the next step, once you've got yourself some funding, is to actually ensure that you have a market. And one of the key things to that end in the Marlborough region is the fact that breweries are in an area where wine is a big part of the export sector, and buyers come to New Zealand to buy wine, and they naturally are often craft beer buyers. So to that end, they are starting a new Zealand-wide beer cluster in Marlborough. This is a fantastic initiative and will really help things grow along in that way. But free trade agreements, Mr. Speaker, are also essential to fully grow our potential, and this government is pursuing these very vigorously and ensuring that New Zealand has access to growth markets. Combining trade agreements with innovative business initiatives such as clusters is really helping to harness New Zealand's economic potential, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, regions aren't just a part of the New Zealand story, they are actually driving it.